Yo.
Yes, sir.
What's up, guys?
Yes.
This DJ will kick the floor in 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to Mzansi. We're back again with that. I think it's heads of arguments for this agent application, right?
Yeah, it was.
And you would like to know, because I'm sure most of us were lost somewhere.
And I was bored, yo. Let me be honest, guys. Today for me was a very boring court. But I guess for those who like immigration law and international law, it was fun for them. For me, mina ngithanda evidence, mina ngithanda ama-facts, mina ngithanda ukuthi, to be proven. A liar must be proven. A liar must be shown whether there was fact in what they were saying or not. But somehow this court was different, man. It was like, whether Nandipha is lying or telling the truth, it doesn't matter. What matters is the procedure, the rule of law. It's full of my textbook namhlanje.
Let us see what we can get from that, Emily.
Okay.
It's Mr. Anonymous here. Please subscribe. And this is Emily in front of you. Greet you and thank you again for joining us. We are going to deliberate in this thing as much as we can.
Best.
And
do
not correct our English. We are going to break it as much as we can. It's part of
what we do on
movement.
the channel.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We are not law experts. We are just like you. We are laymen who are trying to digest what we saw today. Okay? Mm-hmm. And yes, welcome to Mzansi Reality. This is how we roll. Okay, we like court cases over here. So Dr. Nandipha got a top international advocate to declare her arrest unlawful. You know what, Mr. Anonymous? The media sure did hype him up. I had to find out who this man is. I wanted to know. So I did a quick search. Who is advocate Anton Katz? So it is said that he graduated with a BSc in mathematics and an LLB at UCT and an LLM International Constitutional Law at Columbia School of Law in New York. He's based in Cape Town and specializes in international law. He was a member of the United Nations Human Rights Council's Working Group on Mercenaries from 2011 to 2018 and has appeared in the Constitutional Court on more than 60 occasions. And has appeared as counsel in numerous national jurisdiction as well as international for a tribunal around the world. So Katz reportedly serves on many committees and boards around the world, including being the chairman of the Cape SAGBD's Election Commission. And according to News 24, in November 2020, Advocate Katz left the Cape Bar after almost 30 years, saying in his resignation letter, the majority of the members of the council do not appear to demonstrate attitudes and values he associates with. So general fairness and quite simple, a sense of constitutionalism.
Yeah.
So his 30 years experience had made him leave the Cape Town bar to say, there's no constitutionalism over here. So arguments were delivered before Judge Philip Lobser at the Bloemfontein High Court. And Katz started off by saying that it's suggested by Home Affairs that the South African mission in Tanzania is the soil of South Africa. That is wrong in terms of international law. So Katz argued that South African authorities were outside of the ambit of the law in the way they arrested Magudumana.
Yeah.
The legal team touched a bit on the difference between deportation and extradition, also looking at what the function of a high commissioner's diplomatic mission is in another country.
Okay.
And various immigration laws. Katz said the manner in which Magudumana was arrested was a disguised extradition.
All right.
Katz said when you look at the respondent's conduct We must look at whether they complied with the law. It's bad on their version, he said. We will show how this deportation was disguised as an extradition, where there was collusion between the South African authorities and Tanzania. Katz highlighted the difference between deportation, extradition, and the facts demonstrate this was an extradition. That's our case. That's it. That's what he said. That it's not a deportation.
Yes.
It was an extradition.
Where they are going, it is definitely where we didn't want them to go.
Yep.
It's the talk of Minister Begite.
Yep.
Some they call BC. Yeah. So this collaboration and working with Tanzanian authorities is now coming back to bite us.
Yes. It seems like the procedure was not done as it should have been done.
Because this man is saying that this urgent application raises two questions.
Yeah.
The first one is whether the applicant, Dr. Nandipha Maguduman, was forcefully removed from the United Republic of Tanzania and handed over to South Africa officials at an instance of officials in the Republic of South Africa. And if so, the second is whether the law precludes the exercise of South African criminal jurisdiction over her because of the forceful removal of Maguduman's head of Maguduman. So now, what is this? Just breaking down that part. He's simply saying that you cannot have what we call it's a blessing in disguise in law. By saying that if you tend to do something wrong and then you land in a correct environment therefore after, it does not necessarily mean that you can then continue to conduct the lawful way of doing things. If you arrested Nandipha Maguduman, if Nandipha Maguduman was obtained in an illegal way, we cannot continue just because now he's here, she's here, to say that we are arresting her just like that after this whole process of wrongful, the so-called abduction and what so not. Now, I don't know if I explain it in a simple way. I mean, I don't know if people would understand.
A lot of people, I even watched some of the lawyers. A lot of people are more going towards that direction. You know, a basic example is when you are arrested. You are arrested in an illegal manner, or rules were not followed by the police as they were arresting you. That completely disregards everything you've done or how you were caught to be arrested for that crime.
So what they are saying is, if I'm a male police, as we know that we are not supposed to be searching a woman, you need to have a woman searching a woman. Let us say in my searching, I happen to find something that is illegal or whatever that I was looking for, that I was suspecting you for.
Proof or evidence.
A proof of evidence. That evidence cannot be used, or we cannot even enter into that case without dealing with how it was obtained. So what they are doing is that, let us say this blindfolding and abduction is not there,
yes,
for argument's sake. This will not undermine the case that she was the subject of disguised extradition. Now they are dwelling in that because there is a communication in I think in a public platform where Minister BC was saying that it was not an arrest through Tanzanian because they were in a wrong place. Debunking that is sort of now opening this for it to be questioned. Because if they were not arrested for that, then what were they arrested for?
Tricky.
If you say that there was a video where he said it was not, by the way, an arrest because they were in a wrong country illegally. In a different country illegally. It was through our work for our forces and whatnot that we're working.
We played it yesterday.
That video now is coming back to bite us.
Well, Katz said under South African law, any action taken by an official needs to be sourced in law. On any basis, what happened here falls foul of the Constitution and the law. So Katz said we need to establish on what basis were Home Affairs and SAPS in Tanzania. Home Affairs had said in its papers that there was a handover of the applicant. There was no handover. We must agree that what Mudiri Matthews, Chief Director, Inspectorate of Immigration Services at Home Affairs, was doing in Tanzania was unlawful. I even heard some people saying that did he even have a permit to work in Tanzania? Oh my God. Apparently you can't just leave the country and go do work in another country without approval and proper documentation being approved in that country. So the question now is posed that what was he doing in Tanzania? What work was he doing in Tanzania? And whether the proper procedures were followed. Your family. Hey, Ziakala.
So our state is just leaning on saying that this agent application is rather leaning towards lies. So it is built towards lies. They are saying Makudumana is lying in building this.
And also the South African Commission in Tanzania is not South African soil. That's what is seen in the movies. Kilimanjaro Airport, where Makudumana and Bester were handed, is not on South African soil. It's nonsense, he even said. It's nonsense. I'm like, nangu mmeli. Here's a lawyer here who has brought textbooks and things and a lot of information overload. This argument seems to imply that a person should give consent before they are deported. However, the state said the accused was declared by the host country, Tanzania, to be unlawfully in the country. So Katz said that the 8-member delegation that went to Tanzania on April the 9th was deliberating on the deportation of Makudumana and Bester. He said that they were only there to identify the people, but that was not the case because the pair were then deported back to South Africa. This was not a deportation. It was actually a disguised unlawful extradition, said Katz. Katz also dealt with Brigadier Richard Shibiri's affidavit, Gauteng Provisional Head of Crime Investigation Services. He said that Dr. Nandipha Makudumana was arrested at Lanseria and he claimed that they were merely observing in Tanzania. The SAPS says from their first meeting, the aim of going to Tanzania was to ascertain the identities of those arrested. We know that can never be the case, Mudiri Matthews said. So immigration, head of immigration, Home Affairs, and the third secretary clearly states that there was an agreement to deport them back to South Africa. What does it mean when you say you have an NPA official in Tanzania to confirm identities? It doesn't make sense. This is what Katz said. Okay, he was there to consider how to extradite them. What was he doing there?
You see, the problem is that we have what we call in that conversation. So I'll stick more on BC, where he says it was an agreement between. They are using some of the words that were used by him, where he said there was an agreement
between Tanzania.
And that's why we had to bring. What was he answering on that parliament? What he said, there was an agreement between Tanzania and South Africa. That's why we had to bring, I think, Home Affairs or something like that.
Yes.
That it was part of the. Now this man is saying that Makutumana's disguised extradition was the result of an agreement between the SA, and indeed such words are being used now, and Tanzania, where the minister said them, some of them, like an agreement issue. Tanzania government, and not the deportation that the SA government claims it was. Deportation is unilaterally act to get rid of an undesirable person whose final destination is irrelevant. He says this is clearly not what happened to Maguduman.
So what he's literally implying is that they should have let her go.
Continue. He was not there to stay, in a sense, basically.
So what would have happened is that after the Tanzanian authorities arrested her, then she was going to go to the next point of entry. And where she goes was not Tanzania's responsibility as long as she's out. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Sure. Hike. So the SAPS says applicant was only arrested at Lanseria. Here you see them trying to absolve themselves completely from this whole process that they call deportation. This case does not concern the conduct of the applicant, but how South African authorities acted in Tanzania. The law must not be stretched or misinterpreted when it comes to the liberty of an individual. The relief we seek is consistent with which we have come to court for. The remedy should be that you must declare conduct that is inconsistent with the Constitution invalid. This court has the obligation to do so. There can be no doubt that the matter is of an urgent nature. Well, then Advocate Neil Snellenbach. Okay, Mr. Anonymous is a tongue twister. Snellenbach for SAPS and the Director of Public Prosecutions. Where's he more? I started to be feeling drowsy and woozy. My apologies. But I started to feel, I started to feel like I no longer understand what is going on. When Advocate Niels Snellenbach stood up and he was, I was like, what? What is happening? Okay. So Snellenbach argued that this application is not urgent, that the applicant didn't comply with the rules. This is an abuse of the process. That is what he said. So the applicant, Nandipha, has not taken the trouble to deal with the urgency basis. She wants to abuse the process and wants to millage on it. It's a self-created urgency. There's nothing untoward about a South African delegation going to Tanzania. And then this also reminds me, sovereign state. So according to South African immigration law, you can't have conversations with other independent states if you are in this predicament where there's a criminal in there. Does that mean that cannot happen?
It can. You can alert them. What do you call it? What is that? An Interpol or something like that? Yeah, you can.
But you can't have an agreement or a conversation to bring them back to the country. So when a criminal has left, they have left.
You
have to spend months
to
bring them back.
You are running away from the nitty-gritties of deportation. Because if then you enter into that, as this man is saying, because the Judge Philip asked whether the prohibited immigrant notice given to Makudumane referred to any destination. The man answered, says, adding that it instructed her to get out of Tanzania within 3 days. He adds that the use of the term handover by the official is one used in relation to extradition, not deportation.
Well, there's nothing outward about a South African delegation going to Tanzania. They needed to know if the identities of those arrested. Precautions also had to be taken because on the plane was Mr. Bester, a convicted prisoner. The issue of the disguised extradition is not found in the applicant's founding papers. So that's another thing, is that the advocates for the police and Home Affairs, it sort of like felt like an ambush for them, because in her application of the papers, there's no mention of this disguised extradition. It appeared today in court. What did you think about that?
There is no mention of what? Can you repeat that part?
Disguised extradition as a deportation.
They are putting that disguised extradition. Basically, they want to go to extradition. It is. They are saying that there was an extradition. They are calling it as disguised, in a sense that it was conducted maybe in a manner that there were people who were working with Tanzanian police, people who are from South Africa. That's why they are saying it's disguised. But in a sense, they want to say extradition, but they are finding a way of working around that word and using maybe a word that has a disguised inside it. So to say, basically, there was an extradition, but it was just disguised. So
Called a deportation. So Snellenberg said the applicant wanted to come back. And then Judge Lobster asked, are you implying she wanted to hitch a ride? Then Snellenberg said, yes, she wanted to come back to South Africa. There's nothing in her papers that suggests that the respondent's version is untrue. There's no evidence that SAPS was involved in any unlawful conduct. There remains nothing untoward about the SA delegation going to Tanzania. So the applicant has not argued her case. She relies on passages in the respondent's affidavits. The applicant can't survive even urgency. This matter doesn't only affect the applicant, but the victims who want justice. There is no evidence that the NDPP or police are guilty of any unlawful conduct. Dr. Nandipha wanted to come home. Snellenberg finished at 2 p.m. And he was the lawyer that was representing Home Affairs. So now the lawyer that was representing Home Affairs, no, he was not. He was actually representing the SAPS. The one who was representing Home Affairs argued next, and he was Advocate Petrus Hubert Zitzman for Home Affairs. So Zitzman argued that the applicant and Bester were arrested by Tanzanian authorities, and that cannot be disputed. Now, Zitzman said it is clearly stated in the notice from Tanzanian authorities that Makudumana was to be deported by escort. Okay, I don't know if you can put up the picture of the notice that was captured.
The notice that was captured is this one.
That one.
Yes.
So you can clearly see on the screen, it's even written there, the letters, they're saying escort. So I hope you guys can see that. So Zitzman said 11th of April, the decision was taken by Tanzania to deport the applicant to South Africa. It is with them who decided. So Zitzman said that the process was followed and refers to the document which states the applicant and Bester were handed by Tanzanian immigration authorities to the High Commission in Tanzania. There's also a picture of the document. And I think I should state what it had said. The immigration authorities to high in Tanzania.
There's also a picture of...
Yeah, I think it's the same picture.
Yes.
So let's move forward. 11th of April, the decision was taken by Tanzanian authorities to deport the applicant to South Africa, and it is them who decided. So Zitzman says the process was followed and refers to the document which states the applicant and Bester were handed by Tanzanian immigration authorities to the High Commission in Tanzania. So Zitzman says this document also proves that it is Tanzanian authorities who arrested Makudumana and Bester, not the South African Police Service.
I find it very difficult to deal with this thing. This man is saying that, according to him, the lawyer of Nandipha, according to him, the purpose of deportation is simple to remove a prohibited immigrant from the country in which their presence is unlawful. Deportation is not concerned with whether the prohibited immigrant goes to... this is essentially different between deportation and extradition. The latter is concerned with whether the sought person is returned. Is returned. The former is not. So this person is saying that if Tanzania was concerned about these people being unlawfully there, they shouldn't have called South Africa per se.
What should they have
They
done?
should have just said, get out of our country. Where the destination is not, shouldn't be their concern. But what they did is they collaborated with South Africans and saying that we are going to take these people back to you. So therefore, the argument is that this cannot be looked at as deportation. Therefore, this can be looked at as extradition because there is a destination, specifically that destination of South Africa.
So they were supposed to wait at the border.
They could have waited at the border. There are many borders that are there in Tanzania. But some of them, they are not coming to South Africa. They could have just...
All the borders. They should have just waited after Tanzania said, you are an illegal, prohibited
But then if they do not... Because Tanzania is not close to South Africa in that sense that there's a border that goes straight to South Africa. So either way, you could have arrested them in a wrong way, in a wrong place.
Again,
you are still dealing with the same.
Maybe they would have arrested them in Kenya only to find that Kenya is also the same problem. It seems like it's more protective of criminals than anything else. Like I'm just perplexed at all of these loopholes. I'm just like, yo, what were they supposed to do? Leave her in a Tanzanian jail for a couple of months and then extradite her? I feel like the only person that they could have taken was Bester. Because he's already convicted.
Yeah.
But when it came to her, they were supposed to leave her in
that
the Tanzanian
was going to be
jail.
an extradition, though, even with Bester.
Even with Bester, even though he's convicted and ran away.
Yeah, that was going to be extradition.
So they should have just left him in the Tanzanian prison or jail.
That's why many people are starting to say that.
So Zitzman also said it appears that she wants this court to believe that there was collusion between South Africa and Tanzania to make this look like a deportation. This whole argument of a disguised extradition cannot succeed. Initially, she made no mention of collusion. There is nothing wrong with the two countries, South Africa and Tanzania, collaborating, which is what I thought initially. But turns out, Mr. Anonymous, you all are saying that's not the case. The actions of the Department of Home Affairs was not unlawful. The decision on where to deport the applicant to was made by Tanzanian authorities. There is no evidence that the applicant sought the services of a lawyer in Tanzania to challenge her unlawful detention, as stated in her replying affidavit. Now, this application should be dismissed with costs. Now, I'm going to read, guys, from that affidavit what she had said. Okay, she said that she had a lawyer over there in Tanzania, and I'm like, yo, you even had time to find a lawyer, girl. Wow, very interesting. Okay,
Yeah, is this the one?
yeah, that's the one. That's the one. I'm gonna read from it. It says, I had no choice but to be placed on the South African aeroplane because I was directed to do so. I could not elect to remain in custody in Tanzania pending an arrangement to exit Tanzania by any other means. I instructed a lawyer in Tanzania, Advocate Gwaki Sasambo, to bring an application to declare my detention unlawful. But I was removed and returned to South Africa before the application served before the Tanzanian courts.
You see, now there must be that evidence then also of that man, that lawyer, that is going to come and say that indeed there was something like that. Now, the debunking of what we call by Home Affairs and SA officials, Home Affairs officials and NPA, when they said they went there to identify Bester. Hey, this man
With
is
the fingerprints.
This man is dealing with them. He's telling them that this is clearly not true, and he points out that Bester and Magudumane fingerprints were sent to South Africa for identification, which therefore begs the question to say that why were they there if they were there?
Well, Advocate Anton Katz, or Dr. Nandipha Makudumana's lawyer in this instance, replied, and he addressed the court on urgency. The deprivation of liberty must be for no longer than necessary. Every second counts. There is no basis in law for the presence of Mr. Matthews, who's from Home Affairs in Tanzania. Katz says that the SADC protocol was not followed. Katz also said this court must rule on South Africa entering into an agreement with Tanzania on the deportation. So yes, guys, it looks like all of her criminal activities have nothing to do with this.
Again, we are going back to that issue of you are caught with something that is not supposed to be within your position, but then the manner in which that thing is obtained is illegal. Therefore, so that's what this case is hindered.
I'm very frustrated
because according to this man, the states and the police police, NPA and Home Affairs delegation indicated they would wait for Tanzania to provide direction on the route that should be taken, followed prior to launching potential extradition proceedings. Tanzania then issued the prohibited immigrant notice used to deport Magudumane, which is unacceptable.
Ay. Did the South African authorities have the right to do so? Well, Judge Lobsa said that he will deliver his judgment on Monday. Okay. So I have a couple of questions regarding this. So Monday, the 5th of June, 2023 at 10 a.m. I'm just waiting for that Monday because really, what happened today? Hi. Nandipha bayajabula shem. I wonder how much that lawyer costs. In the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, could you spend all of this money to take a lawyer all the way from Cape Town to Bloemfontein, girl, to come and represent you? And then what's really the expectation here? Does she want to go back to Tanzania, or does she want to be let go and then rearrested before she can have an opportunity to flee again? Exactly. If if things go in her way, worst case scenario, Mr. Anonymous.
Yes.
If things go in her way, what is supposed to happen? What's gonna happen now?
Well, in my thinking is that normally a case is dismissed, but I do not think that this case will be at that level. What
Why?
can be done is to create maybe some sort of a new whether case, to create a new warrant of arrest while we are dealing with these issues, or where we feel that Mandisa might sometimes or maybe even be lingering on walking free. Because the evidence that we are currently dealing with and the people that are accused and arrested there, that are dealing with that evidence, the evidence there,
Yes.
and they are still dealing with more evidence.
And
it's not like this evidence was obtained in a wrong way. So if that is the case, Nandipha can be released and be rearrested then.
Ngoba nje vele isikhathi siyahamba, so why not mdedeleni niphinde futhi nimbophe if she because awazi sodlalwa uNandipha kanti kwenzakalani. Oh guys, no. And another thing that I also wanted to ask is that maybe she knows that if she wins there will be no trial for her and the case may go away. So you are saying how she was deported or how she was extradited has nothing to do with the evidence that is being collected in South African soil.
No.
Or that has been collected in South African soil.
It is independent. Now, that's where the difference is. When you are caught with that evidence becomes null and void in a sense. But with Nandipha's case, the evidence that's collected independently is not tainted. It's how Nandipha was apprehended coming here to South Africa.
She was not caught with the
having
evidence.
Mandisa in the presence of this country, then it helps us to be able there to issue a new warrant of arrest, maybe to say that we want you for these cases now. It's fine, you won the case of being deported, but we are within now our borders, so we are arresting you for what we think you have done.
Do you think the lawyers are just taking the money here? Like, it looks like a money grab. I don't want to lie.
Look. There is a chance that this man might win some of these things.
Yeah.
But then, what happens after that? Do we deport Nandipha back to the country where he is still gonna be wrongfully there? No, we cannot do that. Because the country is going to simply refuse and say, we don't want that person. Is a person. In fact, they can even put, we do not want to see this person ever in our country.
Ban her.
So we cannot take Mandisa anywhere. Mandisa is here. So eventually, Mandisa must succumb to that.
I'm girl.
Nandipha.
I'm girl. Nandipha.
Hey, Mandisa.
Mandisa. Askis Mandisa.
Skis.
Skis.
Nandipha.
Well, I savelelwa uNandipha. Dr. Nandipha savelelwa si country. Wow. I was like, she's really stretching the bars here. She's stretching the law. She's looking for all of these loopholes. You understand? She's doing the most. I've never seen such in my life. And it even reminds me of when we started reporting. Remember that incident about her claiming the body and actually even going as far as taking the South African police to the High Court for a body that she knew damn well that this body is not Thabo Bester.
It is alleged.
Allegedly.
At this point in time, because we do not know.
But that attitude.
We don't want to deal with that lawyer.
That attitude, I feel like it's the same attitude that we are dealing with right now. It's like, I'm not gonna go down without a fight. Bazongazi kahle. It's very troubling for me, in my opinion. Okay. So let us see what happens with the outcome. And another thing that I also wanted to ask, if she is saying that she was abducted, then how will she claim to be a victim in the trial?
If she claims that she was abducted
by the police.
If she claims that she was abducted and it goes through, and even if it doesn't, so now the issue of being a victim
of Thabo
Bester then is thrown out of the window, because you could have argued that I was there illegally because of. Do you understand? Now you have burned that bridge by saying that you feel that you were extradited there. Illegally. You were taken according to your own way, contrary to what you wish for. So that means your wish was to continue and with Baxter, walk with Baxter to where you were supposed to walk, or drive with Baxter to where you were supposed to drive. That's what we would have to look at.
It's very interesting, though. It's very interesting. So saying that the South African police kidnapped her, it's gonna make her seem more like, she was willing. She was more of an accessory than she was an actual victim of Thabo Bester. And I don't know whether she has thought about it, or she knows that if the court decides that she has a case, or that she was abducted, maybe the outcome is going to be different, which may mean she may not even go to trial. But do I see that happening? No.
I see this.
I don't see it happening.
This Z's man, I think, was representing the
Home Affairs.
The Home Affairs.
Yes.
Is even so? As we said, basically they are using Minister Begitele's quote, because it's saying that now, referencing Makutumana's inclusion of quotes by Minister Begitele and the police spokesperson, and her claim that she wanted to launch a challenge to her arrest in Tanzania court, when she was deported. In her replying application, the Home Affairs Department says this is the new matter that she did not include in her initial application, and want it struck from the court record. But what they are simply doing here is to play with what they are given publicly.
Yeah.
And they are using it to build with, obviously, a bit of evidence that might help them in the long run. But talking is the gist of this.
So also another thing that I'm very curious about, or as I was listening to Dr. Nandipha's lawyer, is why does it seem like there's South African law and then there's immigration law? And it seems like the law of Tanzania is not even considered or even looked at. I don't know if it's me.
No, there's international law.
So he was using international law.
He was dealing with international law.
Okay.
Because, internationally, it's talking about any other country.
Every country. What should be the basis for every country?
Yes. So this man was dealing on the basis of that. Even if it was Kenya, he would have argued the same thing. His arguments are basically to say that according to international law, we have rights there and international law combined together. Rights of the people that are affected and international law combined together.
Hi, for me it's a wrap. I will wait for Monday. And Mr. Anonymous, any last words, any last regards, any final thoughts?
My thinking is that the man was grasping most of the time. So there's gonna be maybe, unless if he's going to file the evidence whereas he's filing his heads of argument.
Yes.
Because there was no evidence that was dealt with there. There's no solid basis of the submission. There's no receipts in simple terms.
To give your
so that might motivate
argument.
the judge to rule against Nandipha in this case. And then you should therefore be expecting that there's gonna be application to a higher court. Are we at the higher court, by the way?
It's the High Court of Bloemfontein, yes.
Yes.
So it might go to Constitutional Court.
Yes, yes. That's basically it. That's what made you sleep, most of you.
Nami, I was part of that community that was on a snooze fest because I'm like, this feels like a law lecture.
Yeah. There was a lot. Thank you very much. Please subscribe and like the video.
Please like the video, guys. And I don't know if it would be a good idea to share this. But okay, I'll have a conversation with Mr. Anonymous. It just came to my head right now. And I will let you know in the community tab. So subscribe, hit the notification bell if it's not on so that you don't miss the announcement as I make it on the community tab, okay?
It seems we have concluded that we are making it.
No, if I make it, because I have to have a conversation first, and see if this will work or not.
I like the fact that we are using if now. Thank you very much, guys. It's a bye from us.
Bye, guys. And don't forget to like the video.
Yes.